Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the podcast. And today I'm going to give my review of AEW's Dynasty. Starting off the night, man, we have an Owen Hart Cup tournament quarterfinal matchup. It is Will Ospreay taking on Kevin Knight. I thought it was a great match, man. Back and forth matchup between Ospreay and Knight, with Ospreay keeping the pace of the match. Ospreay then hits a springboard forearm on Knight for a near fall, followed by a Stung Dog Millionaire. Ospreay then hits a Spanish Fly on Knight in the middle of the ring. Ospreay and Knight then both exchange in the middle of the ring, with Knight hitting a Hurricane Rana on Ospreay. Ospreay then gets up, goes for a Styles Clash on Knight, but Knight counters it with a DDT on the outside. Knight then hits a rolling DDT for a near fall, followed by a UFO splash off the top rope for a near fall. Knight then goes for a springboard, but Ospreay counters. Ospreay then hits a Styles Clash on Knight for a near fall. Ospreay then hits an Oz Cutter, followed by a Hidden Blade, pins for the 3. And your winner of the match, and moving on in the Owen Hart Cup tournament, is Will Ospreay. Hats off to Will Ospreay for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night for the AEW Tag Team titles. It is the Hurt Syndicate defending the AEW Tag Team titles against Brian Keith and Big Bill. I thought it was a decent match, back and forth matchup between both teams, with the Hurt Syndicate keeping the pace of the match. Big Bill, though, lands a big boot in the middle of the ring. MJF is standing in the crowd. He ends up attacking Big Bill by hitting him with the Dynamite Diamond Ring, which pretty much lays out Big Bill ringside. Brian Keith is in the ring all by himself. Lashley ends up hitting a spear on Brian Keith, pins for the 3, and your winners of the match, and still AEW Tag Team Champions, are the Hurt Syndicate. Hats off to the Hurt Syndicate for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we have an Owen Hart Cup tournament quarterfinal matchup for the women. It is Julia Hart taking on Mercedes Moné. I thought it was a decent match, back and forth matchup between Julia Hart and Moné, with Hart hitting a Hurricane Rana on Moné. Hart was trying to keep the pace of the match, but Moné hits a Meteora off the apron, taking out Julia Hart ringside. Moné then mocks Julia Hart. Hart then gets up, hits a DDT on Moné for a near fall. Moné then gets up, hits 2 backstabbers on Julia Hart, followed by a Statement Maker. The hold ends up getting broken, but Moné ends up hitting a roll-up on Julia Hart, pins for the 3, and your winner of the match, and moving on in the women's Owen Hart Cup tournament bracket, is Mercedes Moné. Hats off to Mercedes Moné for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we have an AEW Trios title matchup. It is the Death Riders defending the AEW Trios titles against Rated FTR. I thought it was a good match, man. Back and forth matchup between the Death Riders and Rated FTR, with Rated FTR keeping the pace of the match. Cope then applies a crossface, while FTR apply a sharpshooter in the middle of the ring. The hold gets broken, but Claudio hits a giant swing in the middle of the ring. Pac then hits a tombstone pile driver. Cope then gets up, hits an impaler in the middle of the ring for a near fall. Dax then hits a slingshot DDT in the middle of the ring. Pac then applies a brutalizer on Dax. The hold gets broken. FTR then hit a shatter machine on Wheeler Yuta, followed by Cope hitting a spear. Yuta then gets up, hits a running knee on Dax, pins for the 3, and your winners of the match, and still AEW Trios champions, are the Death Riders. After the match, Dax ends up hitting a pile driver on Cope. The crowd goes crazy. Dax then grabs a chair. FTR then hit a shatter machine on Copeland, and it seems as if FTR has finally turned heel against Adam Copeland. Some interesting stuff there between FTR and Cope. Moving on from that, we go to our next match of the night. It's for the AEW Women's Championship. It is Megan Bayne taking on Toni Storm. I thought it was a good match. Back and forth matchup between Megan Bayne and Storm, with Bayne keeping the pace of the match. Bayne hits a fall-away slam on Toni Storm in the middle of the ring. Storm gets up, hits a DDT on Megan Bayne. Penelope Ford then attacks Toni Storm. Luther then takes Ford to the back. Bayne and Storm both exchange in the middle of the ring, with Bayne hitting a Falcon Arrow on Storm for a near fall. Storm then gets up, hits 4 hip attacks on Bayne in the corner, followed by a Storm Zero for a quick pin, which wasn't even really a quick pin. I mean, it was a 1 count. Megan then hits a powerbomb, but Toni hits a roll-up on Megan Bayne, pins for the 3, and your winner of the match, and still AEW Women's Champion, is Toni Storm. Hats off to Toni Storm for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It's an Owen Hart Cup tournament quarterfinal matchup. It is Kyle Fletcher taking on Mark Briscoe. I thought it was a good match. Back and forth matchup between Fletcher and Briscoe, with Briscoe keeping the pace of the match. Briscoe hits an elbow drop off the barricade, straight out of Cactus Jack's playbook. Fletcher then hits a half and half on Briscoe on a chair. Fletcher then hits 2 power bombs off the apron on Mark Briscoe that looked absolutely brutal, followed by Fletcher hitting another power bomb on Briscoe off the barricade. Briscoe and Fletcher both exchanged in the middle of the ring, with Fletcher hitting a devastating brain buster on Briscoe for a near fall. Briscoe somehow gets up, hits a froggy bow off the top rope, landing on Fletcher for a near fall. Briscoe then hits another froggy bow to the outside, taking out Fletcher, but Fletcher gets up, hits a tombstone brain buster, or turnbuckle brain buster, on Mark Briscoe, pins him for the 3, and your winner of the match and moving on in the Owen Hart Cup tournament is Kyle Fletcher. Hats off to Kyle Fletcher for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It's a title versus mask match for the Ring of Honor Championship. It is Chris Jericho defending the Ring of Honor World Championship against Bandito. I thought it was a decent match. Back and forth matchup between Jericho and Bandito, with Jericho hitting a code breaker quickly on Bandito for a near fall, followed by Jericho hitting a lion salt in the middle of the ring. Jericho was keeping the pace of the match. Jericho then hits a power bomb off the apron on Bandito. Jericho and Bandito both exchange in the middle of the ring, with Bandito hitting a DDT on Jericho. Jericho gets up, hits a Hurricane Rana on Bandito. Bandito then gets up, hits a press slam on Jericho in the middle of the ring, followed by a frog splash on Jericho for a near fall. After that, Jericho then applies a wall to Jericho in the middle of the ring, but the hold is broken. Brian Keith is here. Gravity is here as well. He attacks Brian Keith, which allowed Jericho to hit Bandito with a bat, with the referee being distracted, pins for the 3, and your winner of the match is Chris Jericho. After the match, referee Aubrey Edwards finds the bat due to the help from Bandito's family. The match ends up restarting, with Bandito quickly hitting a 21-plex on Jericho, pins for the 3, and your winner of the match and new Ring of Honor World Champion is Bandito. Hats off to Bandito for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we have a TNT title matchup. It is Daniel Garcia defending the TNT title, taking on Adam Cole. I thought it was a good match. Back and forth matchup between Garcia and Cole, with Garcia and Cole both exchanging in the middle of the ring. Garcia was trying to keep the pace of the match. Garcia hits 3 Amigos neck breaker in the middle of the ring on Cole, followed by a pile driver for a near fall. Garcia then applies an ankle lock on the hurt ankle of Adam Cole, but the hold is broken. Cole then hits a Panama Sunrise off the steel steps on Garcia. Garcia then gets up, hits a Panama Sunrise of his own on Cole, followed by hitting a Lower the Boom on Cole for a near fall. Cole then hits another Panama Sunrise on Garcia, and then Cole hits a Lower the Boom on Garcia, pins for the 3, and your winner of the match and new TNT champion is Adam Cole. Hats off to Adam Cole for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night, possible match of the night. It is a triple threat match for the AEW International title. It is Kenny Omega defending the AEW International title against Mike Bailey and Ricochet. I thought this was a great match, man. Back and forth matchup between Omega, Bailey, and Ricochet, with Omega trying to keep the pace of the match. Bailey hits an Enziguri in the middle of the ring, followed by a Hurricane Rana. Ricochet then gets up, hits a Death Valley off the barricade, landing on Bailey, landing on Omega. It looked absolutely brutal. Mike Bailey then was landing brutal kicks in the middle of the ring, followed by a moonsault to the outside. Bailey then hits a Acai moonsault, taking out Ricochet and Kenny Omega. Bailey then hits a standing moonsault knee drop in the middle of the ring. It looked absolutely brutal, landing right on Ricochet and Kenny Omega. Bailey then hits a springboard Poison Rana. Omega then hits a Snapdragon in the middle of the ring. Omega then hits a V-trigger on Ricochet and Bailey in the middle of the ring. Ricochet then hits a springboard 450. Ricochet then hits a Vertigo for a near fall, followed by a Shooting Star Press for a near fall as well. Bailey then hits a Ricochet with a crane kick. It looked absolutely brutal. Omega then hits a V-trigger. Ricochet then hits a Poison Rana, but Omega hits an Avalanche One-Winged Angel off the top rope, pins for the 3, and your winner of the match, and still AEW's International Champion, is Kenny Omega. Hats off to Kenny Omega for getting the win in that matchup. But after the match, Okada ends up showing up. Okada and Omega get face-to-face, pretty much setting up a matchup between Okada and Omega, taking place at this year's All In. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It's the main event of AEW's Dynasty. It is Jon Moxley defending the AEW title against Swerve Strickland. I thought it was an okay match. Back and forth matchup between Moxley and Swerve, with Swerve keeping the pace of the match. Marina then attacks Swerve. Moxley then hits a paradigm shift off the steel steps on Swerve Strickland. Swerve Strickland is busted wide open after this. Moxley then hits a pile driver on Swerve for a near fall. Moxley and Swerve both exchange in the middle of the ring, with Swerve hitting a rolling flatliner on Moxley. Swerve then quickly hits a house call on Moxley, followed by another house call. Marina then is in the ring with the briefcase. Nana gets face-to-face with Marina. Marina Shafir hits Nana with the briefcase, taking out Prince Nana. Swerve then hits a paradigm shift of his own on Moxley for a near fall. Moxley then brings out a ladder, ringside. Swerve then hits a swerve stomp off the ladder, sending Moxley through the announce table. Moxley then gets up, goes to hit Swerve with a chair, but missed and hit the referee. Adam Page is here, as well as Pac. The Death Riders then attack Adam Page. Page then hits a dead eye on Moxley in the middle of the ring. Samoa Joe, Shibata, and Hook attack the Death Riders, which allowed Swerve to hit Moxley with a chair shot. Swerve then hits a swerve stomp on Moxley, but all of a sudden the lights go out. And when the lights turn back on, it's none other than the Young Bucks. The Young Bucks finally returned to AEW after being away for many, many months. The Young Bucks then hit an EVP trigger on Swerve. Moxley then goes over for the cover, pins for the 3, and your winner of the match and still AEW World Champion is none other than Jon Moxley. Hats off to Jon Moxley for getting the win in this matchup. Couple of things I want to talk about with you guys, man, with Dynasty. You know, I put a review out the other day for the Dynamite upload. I believe it was yesterday, or the day before yesterday. And, you know, for the past couple weeks, the past couple months, I have been very crucial with AEW's product. And, you know, a lot of people are like, man, you're really getting hard, you know, really being hard on AEW's product, man. You're really, you know, you're really kind of sticking it to AEW. And, you know, we don't know why. After what happened last night at Dynasty, you guys should know why I am the way I am with AEW. And the funny thing is I want this company to succeed. I've made that prevalent, I made that relatively known that I want AEW to succeed. After what we got last night, this was by far one of the worst AEW pay-per-views I've ever seen in the 5-year existence of AEW. You know what I mean? And people, like I said, people are like, "Oh man, you're being so hard on AEW, and you're really, you're really sticking it to AEW. You're not doing the same thing with WWE." The reason why that is because WWE is miles ahead right now of what AEW is doing. WWE is in a league of their own. I'm not saying that WWE doesn't have their mishaps or lack of build on storylines. I'm not saying they don't. And when it's bad, I call them out on it. This shit from Dynasty last night from AEW was absolutely awful. First of all, we get a 90-minute 0 hour with the biggest thing coming out of that was Anthony Bowens to challenge Max Caster, which was pretty much a 90-second match. And then we get, like I said, a long 0 hour. Then we get 5 hours of AEW for a pay-per-view, the main card. And you look at WWE where they have 5 to 6 matches on a pay-per-view that the matches actually matter. And they're giving us the best matches of the night. Where AEW is putting on matches during a pay-per-view that honestly I can give a rat's ass about. And some of these matches could have been a glorified collision match. Prime example. Daniel Garcia versus Adam Cole for the TNT title. This match could have happened on Collision. There is absolutely no build here between Cole and Garcia for this TNT title. As far as I'm concerned, the TNT title at this point in AEW means absolutely jack shit. They've done nothing with that goddamn title. That title has been hot potatoed so much from different superstars that it means jack shit. Nobody gives a damn about it. And it's crazy because at one time, the TNT title, and I made this prevalently known in the beginning of AEW, that the TNT title was almost more important than the AEW World Championship because of how much, the matches they were having, how much importance the TNT title had at one time. And we're talking about the early days of AEW where Cody Rhodes was still employed with the company and Sammy Guevara was on his run. We haven't got that. Scorpio Sky was TNT champion. We haven't got that with the TNT title in quite some time. Daniel Garcia, his title run with the TNT championship is absolutely bullshit. And as far as I'm concerned, when it pertains to Daniel Garcia, he should have left and went to NXT. Because honestly, there's nothing left for him to do in AEW. I don't know where the hell he goes from here moving forward now that he lost that TNT title. Daniel Garcia is a failed experiment. And that experiment needs to go. He should have left and went to NXT. The reason why I think he stayed there was because of the money. At this point, there's nothing left for this guy to do in AEW. It's a waste of time. Adam Cole, I got all the praise in the world from Adam Cole. Adam Cole's a great wrestler. He's a great superstar. He's done great things over in WWE, specifically NXT. when he had Undisputed Era and he was running Rough Shop all over NXT Black and Gold brand. Yeah, Adam Cole was a great superstar. I don't know where Adam Cole fits in the mold here with AEW. I really don't. Yeah, he's currently TNT champion, but the problem is you have to ask yourself who's going to be next to challenge Adam Cole. And honestly, who really gives a rat's ass about the TNT title at this point? Really nobody. Why? It's because Daniel Garcia really wasn't defending that title that much on television. Not only that television, the TNT title really wasn't being showcased that much on television. Nobody gives a shit about the TNT title. So again, I go back to what I said earlier. This was a glorified collision match, wasting everybody's time on Dynasty. And they're making a 5-hour pay-per-view and adding matches that technically could have been on Collision. To be honest with you. And my thing is, even, you look at the AEW Tag Team Championships, the Hurt Syndicate, where they were defending the titles against Big Bill and Brian Keith. That learning tree shit is a failed experiment. And now that Big Bill and Keith had lost that match against the Hurt Syndicate, and Jericho, which I will get into later, lost his match against Bandito, that learning tree shit needs to go. It is a dead experiment. It's going fucking nowhere. It's done. And people, the funny thing is when Jericho has a match, majority of the crowd by the end of it are begging for his ass to retire. He needs to go. And my thing is, he put out a statement not too long ago. He did an interview with somebody, and he said, somebody had asked him, would he ever go back to WWE? And he said, oh, yeah, absolutely. You don't think he's not going to go back to WWE? Sure. Why? Because he wants to be in the Hall of Fame. Absolutely, Jericho will go back. There's nothing for Jericho to do in AEW, and Jericho needs to learn how to read the goddamn room. There's nothing else more for this guy to do. Now, when Jericho came into AEW, I'll give the guy all the credit in the world. He was a part of some of the best storylines in company history, specifically with him and MJF, the Inner Circle, what he was dealing with Pinnacle. He's had some great, memorable moments and storylines in AEW, but this was like the first 2, if not 3 years of AEW's existence. Now we're in year 5 where Jericho hasn't done shit in the past 2 years. It's just, and he's trying to make Ring of Honor something where it's not. Ring of Honor is a dead product. And that's the other thing, too, another match that was not needed. Jericho versus Bandito. I am sick and tired of seeing this Ring of Honor shit on AEW television. I understand Tony Khan owns the company as well as him owning AEW. But you're trying to bring in some lifeblood into a company, a brand, that's fucking dead. No one gives a rat's ass about Ring of Honor. And I've said this the past couple months. I said it in my last Dynamite episode. Ring of Honor is fucking dead. Before Tony Khan had bought that company was red hot. Ring of Honor had some of the best talent in the world walk through those doors, from all over the country, all over Mexico, all over Japan, that will walk through the doors of Ring of Honor and put on banger matches for the fans. As of late, Ring of Honor is dog shit since Tony Khan has purchased that company. And I told you guys, as far as Tony Khan's concerned, AEW can fold tomorrow. But Tony Khan is going to be sticking around the pro wrestling business for quite some time. This guy's not going anywhere. So if AEW folds up shop, he's still got Ring of Honor. This guy's not going nowhere. And the problem is Tony Khan's so fucking delusional that he thinks what he's actually doing right now is helping the business when ultimately he's killing his own company. Which I will get into towards the end of the podcast, because that main event, everybody that I talked to and everybody that I've seen and all the things I've seen online, people can't stand the way Dynasty went off the air last night. Because the main event was so fucking bad. But with the Jericho situation, Jericho needs to go. Jericho needs to retire. I don't give a shit if the guy's on commentary. At this point, I don't give a shit if he goes back to WWE. There's nothing else left for this guy to do. The learning tree with the Big Bill situation and Brian Keith, it is done. That tag, and the thing of it is with AEW, the tag team division, there is no fucking tag team division. There's not. Half the tag team division roster is injured. We haven't seen the Guns, Austin and Colton Gunn. Where the hell are they? Are they injured? Haven't seen them. Where are the grizzled young veterans? I thought they were signed with AEW. Where are they? You know what I mean? The Acclaimed are split up. Max Caster and Anthony Bowens are doing their own shit, which is honestly at this point a fucking mistake. They should have just kept them as a tag team, because right now they have no tag team division. You got the return of the Young Bucks last night, and who knows what the hell they're doing, because of what happened after last night, which I will get into here soon. No one knows what the fuck is going on here. Where's Alex Reynolds and John Silver from the Dark Order? No, we're getting Top Flight, we're getting Crew with Leo Rush and Action Andretti. The tag division for AEW is so fucking bad. You know what I mean? I can see the Hurt Syndicate holding those titles for quite some time, and they should. Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin are one of the best acts on AEW television right now. They are severely over. They had Dynasty last night in Philly. They walk in and the entire crowd is singing their theme song. They're severely over. And it would have been a fucking mistake to see Big Bill and Brian Keith beat them and walk out AEW Tag Team Champions. Somebody fucked up there if that would have happened. I'm glad that Lashley and Benjamin beat the hell out of Big Bill and Brian Keith. I'm happy. Yeah, they got some assistance from MJF, which, again, with all due respect to the Hurt Syndicate, I don't know where MJF fits into this, into the fold with the Hurt Syndicate. I really don't. And a lot of reasons why I say that is because of what happened in the main event, which, again, I will get into here in a little bit. But there's a lot of loopholes with this goddamn company, man, and it's honestly killing this company. It's fucking bad. I mean, I don't get it. And, the people that I've talked to, and I agree with them, when you have these pay-per-views, number one, and I've stated this multiple times in the past as well, you got these AEW pay-per-views, once every couple months. And they're charging people about $50 a pop for these pay-per-views. Okay. You're paying just to watch the matches. You're not paying with the anticipation that there's going to be a story or build-up for these goddamn matches. It's pretty much Tony Khan books these matches, and then what you see is what you get. There's no storyline. There's no intrigue to these matches. No one gives a shit. We all know that the roster that they have is a good roster. We all know Will Ospreay can wrestle. We get it. I have all the praise in the world for Ospreay. I've said multiple times that Ospreay can have a match with a loaf of bread in the middle of the ring, and it'd be a 5-star match. We all know that he can wrestle. He's one of the greatest wrestlers on the planet right now. And some people were upset with me when I made comments about Kevin Knight. I didn't say anything bad about Kevin Knight. My issue with Kevin Knight is that you just brought this guy into the fold of AEW. Tony Khan swept in and took this guy from WWE like a hawk before he can sign with NXT, so he can just bring him over to AEW and try to push this guy to the moon to kind of push it back on Shawn Michaels and say, ha, I got Kevin Knight and you didn't. Okay. But what are you going to do with him now after he lost with Will Ospreay? Not saying he didn't have a bad match with Ospreay. He had a great match with Ospreay. The guy's got potential. He's got talent. But do you really trust the regime, if you will, over in AEW as far as someone like Kevin Knight? No, I don't trust him. I don't. With the illogical booking, no storylines, no builds, I can see, Kevin Knight being a part of Collision or being a part of Ring of Honor, and they have nothing else more for him to do. And they only pushed this guy because, Tony Khan wanted to stick it to Shawn Michaels over there in NXT. That's exactly what this is. I'm scrolling through Twitter and seeing comments and people saying, oh, this reminds me of WCW 2000. I've been saying this shit about AEW now for the past 2 years. This company is fucking awful. And, people saying, like, oh, yeah, it has a lot of resemblance to WCW 2000. Yeah, I had to say I agree with them. Because, my God, bro, this shit is fucking bad. There's no storyline. There's no intrigue to these matches. You're just booking matches just for the hell of it. You know what I mean? And like, again, a lot of these matches that we got last night for Dynasty could have been on a Dynamite episode or a Collision episode. Especially some of these Owen Hart Cup tournament quarterfinal matches. It could have been on a Collision or Dynamite. Kyle Fletcher versus Briscoe could have been on Collision or Dynamite. Will Ospreay versus Kevin Knight could have opened up a Dynamite episode. There was no reason to have these matches on last night's Dynasty. They were doing these matches to fill out 5 hours for this pay-per-view. That's all it was. And, the crowd towards the end of it they kind of just were not interested anymore. They really weren't. You know what I mean? You got a long-ass buy-in show going into a main card that's 5 hours. And everybody's anticipating and sticking around for the 5 hours because they want to see the main event, which, again, I will get into in a second. But this was fucking awful. This really was. I mean, you look at Julia Hart versus Mercedes Moné. I said this the other day. As far as the women's bracket is concerned for the Owen Hart Cup tournament, for the Owen, it's very predictable. I can see Mercedes Moné definitely winning that tournament and going to the finals. Absolutely. Or having a match with Athena that goes into a time limit draw, and then we get multiple different matches between Mercedes Moné and Athena. That's the story. But can they facilitate that story? Can they build off that? That's the problem. But it's very predictable for the women's side of the Owen Hart Cup tournament. Absolutely. And I said this about Mercedes Moné the other day. Mercedes Moné is in business for herself. I'm not saying she's not a great wrestler, and she's not had some good matches in AEW. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say Julia Hart's match last night was one of Moné's best matches in AEW. No, I thought the match personally with her and Julia Hart was probably Mercedes Moné's not her best match in AEW. There was a lot of botches in that matchup from both sides of the fence, whether it was Moné or Julia Hart. And honestly, it was probably one of Monet's worst matches in AEW, to be honest with you. That's not taking anything away from Julia Hart. I think Julia Hart's great. I don't know what they're doing with the whole Hellhound situation with, Julia Hart and Buddy Matthews and Brody King. I know Buddy Matthews is out right now with injury, but again, it could have been a match that opened up Dynamite or Collision. It was not needed to be on the pay-per-view. And that's my biggest thing. Tony Khan doesn't know what the fuck he is doing, clearly. And people are like, oh, well, they almost sold out last night with their pay-per-view. Yeah, people were buying that pay-per-view with the anticipation that Swerve was going to walk out AEW World Champion. And that's not what happened. That's why people bought those damn tickets to go to that event. But you look at their weekly episodic television, whether it be Dynamite or Collision, come on, bro. They're hardly selling out. NXT is beating them in the ratings. You know what I mean? As far as I'm concerned right now, AEW is not even the second best wrestling company in the States at this point. And to be honest with you, the way they're running the show, no. You had to look at NXT and what they're doing right now. You also had to look at TNA and what the hell they're doing over there. You know what I mean? It's benefiting both parties with NXT and TNA working together. Absolutely. Pay-per-views are not that long. They're a couple hours. I mean, WWE's main roster does that. They put 5 or 6 matches on a pay-per-view, and the matches actually matter. And you're out the door by 9, 10 o'clock at night. No, last night the pay-per-view didn't go off the air until 12:30 last night. For a bullshit finish. You know what I'm saying? Like, read the fucking room. And then you have people at the AEW post-media scrum for Dynasty asking the most stupidest ass questions in the world. You got people asking for a Waffle House order. Like, what the fuck are we doing here, dude? Really? Where's the people asking the important questions of what the hell are we doing? Like, for example, what are we doing with Max Caster and Anthony Bowens? What are we doing with that? Is this a one-off between Bowens and Caster? After what happened last night in the buy-in? Or the 0 hour? I mean, Christ, with all due respect to Anthony Bowens, he was, honestly, the audience reaction that he got was probably the best reaction from anybody the entire night almost. The roof blew off that place last night in Philly for Anthony Bowens. Absolutely. But where are we going here next with Max Caster and Anthony Bowens? And that's my biggest concern with this. If they do it correctly, it will come off great. Obviously, there's a lot of history there between Bowens and Caster, being the fact that they were a tag team known as the Acclaimed in AEW, which, for what it's worth, the Acclaimed should have never split up. Because right now, AEW doesn't have a goddamn tag team division. They just don't, bro. I don't get it. The logic gaps in here are so bad. And it's almost like they don't even give a shit, bro. And they what they're putting out on television, they actually think the shit's working. And the whole mission statement for this company was, oh, we're all for the fans. We're for the fans. No, you're not. Because if you were for the fans, we've been saying the same shit for the past almost 3 years now that we want compelling storylines. Clearly, you don't give a shit about us. As long as we're lining your goddamn pockets where we're paying $50 for these fucking pay-per-views every other month. You don't give a shit about us. You don't give a fuck about the fans. You don't. Because if you did, you would take what we're saying into consideration, but you're not even remotely entertaining the idea of listening to what the hell we got to say. Where you have other people in the community that, have been saying the same shit that I'm saying, and they've been doing this shit for years. It's not rocket science, folks. It's not. And people could say, oh, well, don't watch the show. No, this is what I do. This is what I do. And I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat shit and say, okay, well, you know what? I've said this so many times, it's unreal. I'm not here to rub shoulders with these fucking people. I'm not. If the shit's bad, the shit's bad. I'm not going to sit here, oh, you know what? I need to, say it was a good show to get in the good graces of Tony Khan and AEW. No, I'm not. I'm not. Because honestly, at the end of the day, for me personally as a fan, I feel bad for the people that work there. I feel bad for the talent that are not being utilized on television. I feel bad for the people that are doing whatever the hell they can to get the hell out of there, and Tony Khan's making an absolute pain in the ass to try to get out of AEW. Yeah, I feel bad for those people. I felt bad for Ray Phoenix, man, because I said it before, and I'll say it again. Ray Phoenix was in AEW purgatory. I felt so damn bad for a guy like Ray Phoenix. I really do. And the fact of the matter is if you look back on the narrative of AEW and everything that's transpired and has happened up to the 5 years, this company, bro, when Tony Khan and AEW, and I'm going to say this, and it's going to be a hot take probably for a lot of people, but I'm going to lay some truth on y'all. When AEW lost Cody Rhodes and CM Punk was the final nail in the coffin for this company. It was over. And I've said this multiple times when it pertains to CM Punk and AEW, that was Tony Khan's ace in the hole. Tony Khan brought in CM Punk with the aspirations that CM Punk was going to be the guy to take down the juggernaut of WWE. He had every intention on pushing CM Punk to the fucking moon and giving that guy everything and anything that he wanted. I mean, Christ, he even gave he gave CM Punk his own fucking shows just so he could stay away from the Young Bucks after what happened with their altercation backstage. And that still didn't work. CM Punk was looking to get the fuck out, and he did. He got out. And look what he's doing now. This guy is the main event of Night 1 of WrestleMania against someone like Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins. And the match sells like sliced bread. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, read the fucking room, bro. And that's the problem. He put all this investment in guys like Cody Rhodes and CM Punk. And we saw, and look what happened. Look what happened to both Rhodes and Punk and see where they're at now. Cody Rhodes has been in the biggest storyline of all professional wrestling for the past, almost 3 freaking years with the Bloodline. You know what I mean? You look at CM Punk, when he returned to WWE at Survivor Series, when his music hit, it blew the roof off that fucking arena. And look at the matches that he's had. Look at the match he had with Drew McIntyre. And that storyline between McIntyre and CM Punk was all over a goddamn bracelet. And the Hell in a Cell match was perfect. You couldn't have a better match between Punk and McIntyre. Look at the matchup between Punk and Rollins. Night 1, what was it? The first night of the debut episode of Netflix for Raw on Netflix. It was a great fucking match. It's not hard to comprehend here, people. It's not. Give us compelling storylines. Get us invested. I mean, Roman versus Solo in a Tribal Combat match. It was great. It was great. It's not hard to comprehend here. I'm not saying WWE is always, on top of their game. I'm not sitting here saying that, but I mean, read the fucking room. How many people that watch WWE's product right now say, oh, you know what, there's no storylines in AEW. Yeah, we have our grievances with it, that the storyline needs to intensify, but it's not like week in and week out, we don't get something for us to hold on to, whether it be Monday Night Raw or SmackDown, to lead us into the following week. Never. Prime example, look at this Grande Americano shit with Chad Gable. Yeah, it sounds hilarious, and it is hilarious, but it gets the fans in tune on what the hell's going on. They're waiting to see what happens. Well, who is it? Chad Gable? Is it somebody else? And they're telling a great story. They created that vignette video of Grande Americano when they were talking about him being in Mexico, and they were showing old videos or old pictures of different Mexican luchadors and legends like El Santo or Mil Mascaras and the Guerrero family. And they were building this up around El Grande Americano. Why are we not getting this shit in AEW, bro? Why? That's the problem. This is the biggest issue with this company. It's ridiculous, man. It is. It really is. Half the matches on this card last night could have been a Dynamite or on Collision, to be honest. You know what I mean? And like for the Hurt Syndicate, I don't know what's next for them at this point. I really don't. There's been, I really don't. I can't say there's another predominant tag team right now in AEW that can go after the Hurt Syndicate. And yeah, I mentioned there were some free agents out there like, Gallows and Anderson, but I think Gallows and Anderson, from what I've seen, are on their way over to MLW. And, obviously there's Akib and Razor, but I don't know if, they're coming over to AEW or not. I don't know if Tony Khan's interested in bringing them in. I don't know. But my God, man, they need something. I mean, the tag team division is so fucking bad in AEW. It's unreal. And then, there were some matches that were decent. Like I said, Ospreay and Kevin Knight, it was a really good match. But could it have started a Dynamite or Collision? Yeah. And my issue with Kevin Knight is not that he's a bad wrestler. I think he's great. I think he's very talented. But is Tony Khan actually going to push this guy and write compelling storylines for this guy to get him over? That's the problem. Because to me, I don't trust the regime right now over in AEW. I do not. And I'm going to put it out there. I can see Kevin Knight, depending on what they're going to do with him, and if they don't do nothing with him, I can see him being a part of Ring of Honor. Or he's a mid-carder or back of the line, or he's sitting on the sidelines for months, to be honest. I do not trust Tony Khan in booking Kevin Knight. I just don't. I really don't. And hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully I am wrong. And if I'm wrong, I'll tell you guys I'm wrong. But I don't trust Tony Khan when it comes to Kevin Knight. I really don't. You know what I mean? The guy's got all the potential in the world. He's got all the potential in the world to be the next Will Ospreay, to be honest with you. But it's how Tony Khan presents him on television. It's how Tony Khan pushes him in AEW. And right now, Tony Khan just doesn't have a tendency to really push younger talent in AEW. It's the truth. And hopefully, like I said, hopefully I'm wrong. But, was it a really good match? Yeah, it was definitely a good match. I think the triple threat matchup between Omega, Mike Bailey, and Ricochet was probably match of the night for me personally. I was also excited for the moment with FTR and Adam Copeland. I think that was a great moment. But again, it could have gone either way. My initial prediction that Cope was going to turn heel and join Christian Cage. But I was wrong. FTR ended up hitting a Shatter Machine on Copeland, leaving him pretty much lifeless in the middle of the ring, hitting a concerto on Copeland multiple times. I don't know where they go from here. I mean, FTR obviously, maybe they're going after the tag team titles, which I'm not against. But where does this leave Copeland? A lot of people, I had to tend to agree with them that Copeland, obviously is going to stay a babyface, but Christian Cage might also be left out of the patriarchy, and this might also be a chance here where we, reunite, if you will, Edge and Christian. So, that's also, very predictable, but I wouldn't be opposed to seeing it. Obviously, these guys' careers are coming to an end, and I'm sure, at some point in Copeland's career, as well as Christian in AEW, these guys probably want to do business together at some point, and what better way to do it but now? You know what I mean? It's a win-win situation for them. A lot of people wanted to see these guys reunite, and it looks like that's possibly going to happen. So I'm all for that. I'm not against that at all, and hopefully they do, pull the trigger on that, because I think they need to. That was, again, an exciting part of the night, but it wasn't a lot, man. I do want to get into this main event. And I know I kind of been stalling and talking about other stuff that happened last night, and I apologize for that. But this main event, man, it was one of those things where, coming into the night, okay, first of all, it was 5 hours leading up to this main event, number one. Number two, everybody that I saw online, everybody, including myself, said this was a night for Swerve. Swerve won the belt, I believe, the first time at Dynasty. This was Swerve's night. Swerve comes out to the ring, and, he's got pyro, he's got everything else like that. And for what it's worth, I thought Swerve was coming in, walking out AEW World Champion. John Moxley comes out to the ring with Marina Shafir. The beginning of the matchup, man, I can honestly tell you this was a very slow start, man. I was hoping these guys would, as soon as that bell rings, they go in and beat the shit out of each other. That's not what happened. The shit with Swerve and Moxley, and I would say the solid 3 to 4 minutes, maybe 5 minutes of the match, was basically a grapple match, if you will. A lot of MMA background between Moxley and Swerve. And that's pretty much what it was. It was trying to get, Kimuras and arm bars and knee bars and everything else like that in the first couple minutes of this match. And it got to a point where the fans were even booing, because it was the same shit we were getting from John Moxley, where he's trying to do these submissions and he's trying to be the next Josh Barnett or, Dan Henderson and all this shit. It's like, bro, you can save me with that shit. Sorry, I've been watching MMA for a long time. You ain't even nowhere close to those guys. But I appreciate the fact that he, has a love for the sport, sure. But he ain't no Dan Henderson or, Mauricio Shogun Hua, so get the hell out of here with that. The match started off slow. So I wasn't a big fan of that in the beginning of the match. The match kind of, was a slow burn. And, we get the spot with the ladder where Swerve hits the Swerve Stomp, sending Moxley through the announce table, which I thought was a great moment in the match. I really did. And I thought the tables were starting to turn for Swerve in a good way. And then we get Adam Page coming out to the ring, which, obviously there's a little hostility there between Page and Swerve after what happened on last week's Dynamite. But when you see Page standing on the ring, and he's looking at Swerve, but he's also looking at Moxley too, and whether he wants to hit that buckshot lariat on Swerve or if not Moxley. But before Page even decides on what, who he wants to hit with that buckshot lariat, he's interrupted by Pac. The Death Riders come out to the ring. They beat the shit out of Adam Page. The Ops come out with Samoa Joe, Shibata, and Hook. They attack the Death Riders, which ultimately, had, Moxley capitalize on the match and pin Swerve and retain the AEW World Championship. But another part of that matchup, too, before Moxley got the pin was, Swerve was going for that other Swerve Stomp. And, at the time, he was kind of milking it. I was like, really, what the hell is going on here? And then the lights go out. And my first initial thought, I'm not going to lie, I thought it was going to be Darby. Even though Darby's, he's climbing Mount Everest. They usually don't turn the lights out for a lot of people besides like a Darby or a Sting. So when the lights went out, I was like, all right, what the hell's going on here? The lights come back on. To our surprise, it's the return of the Young Bucks. But the Young Bucks are standing in the middle of the ring with Swerve, and they ended up hitting an EVP trigger on Swerve in the middle of the ring, which ultimately let Jon Moxley get the pinfall on Swerve for him to retain the AEW World Championship. The same championship that we have not seen since fucking October. That title has been pretty much captive in a fucking briefcase that's being showcased around by Marina Shafir. We haven't seen that fucking title in all its glory since October of last year. You know what I'm saying? That's red flag number one. The Young Bucks coming back, I made this abundantly clear that the Young Bucks needed to come back to AEW. I fully will admit that. Absolutely. But they brought the Young Bucks back to ultimately help Jon Moxley get the win over Swerve. Now, if you guys remember the last time we saw the Young Bucks on AEW Dynamite television, the last time we saw them, they were leaving the arena, pissed off and irate. Christopher Daniels was trying to figure out what the hell was going on with, Matt and Nick Jackson. They loaded up their suitcases and briefcases and all that other shit into a van and said, hey, you know what? We're going to work from home. The hell with this place. We're leaving. And they were gone for months. But they forgot somebody backstage, and that was their friend, Brandon Cutler. And if you guys remember distinctly, Cutler was getting his ass kicked by the Death Riders backstage on a Dynamite episode while the Young Bucks drive off and go home to California. While their boy, Cutler, is getting his ass whipped backstage by the Death Riders. So then here we are now in present time, and the Bucks return after being gone for so many months to return to AEW just to help the guy that ultimately beat the piss out of their best friend backstage. So again, the logic gaps of this fucking show is what's killing this fucking company. They're watching this shit burn to the ground, bro. I'm sorry. I mean, what sense does that fucking make? You bring the Young Bucks back after what happened the last time they were on Dynamite. And I'm going to mention this too about Kenny Omega, which I'll get into this in a second. But speaking of the Young Bucks, you bring them back last night. Great. It's great to see the Bucks come back. Obviously, they're still heels after what happened last night. But you bring them back just for them to show up, hit an EVP trigger on Swerve in the middle of the ring, just for them to help Jon Moxley retain the AEW World Champion after what the Death Riders did to their best friend, Brandon Cutler. They beat the piss out of Cutler backstage. So, again, what fucking sense does that make? They beat the shit out of your buddy, but you're going to come back and help the guy who beat the shit out of your buddy just so he can retain the AEW title and most likely keep this fucking title all the way until July. So most likely Jon Moxley, in its entirety, is going to be holding this fucking title for about 9 months until we get to All In July, in total. Why? I'll tell you exactly why. Because they are waiting desperately for Darby Allin to come in after he climbs Mount Everest, which we don't know if he's going to come back from or not. Hopefully he does. And save it for Darby Allin to be the guy that dethrones Jon Moxley at All In, and the Death Rider shit's over. But I can tell you this right now, and I have all the respect in the world for Darby. By the time we get to that fucking match at All In between Darby and Jon Moxley, possibly, who's really going to give a shit about Darby beating Jon Moxley for that AEW World title? With no storyline, no build, the fact the guy's been out for months, and you're just going to throw him into the title picture. But the other question is who's going to be the wild card for the men in the Owen Hart Cup tournament? I don't think it's going to be Darby. So who's it going to be? Jack Perry? And how is this really going to pan out? Because you also had to look at the narrative here. Adam Page came out to the ring first. He's both looking at Swerve, and he's looking at Jon Moxley on really who he wants to hit that buckshot lariat on. So, to me, it almost seems as if with the Young Bucks doing what they did last night by hitting the EVP trigger on Swerve, and Adam Page is just sitting there looking on, pissed off. It looks like we can see Swerve teaming up with Adam Page to take on the Young Bucks, possibly happening at Double or Nothing. What a fucking joke. Why? The match, for what it's worth, Page is in the Owen Hart Cup tournament, number one. Number two, I have him going to the finals. Hell, I can have Page win in the finals and challenge Jon Moxley at All In. Because the winner of that match most likely will challenge Jon Moxley at All In for the AEW World title. So you have to ask the question, how is this going to work? Because no matter how you look at it, no matter how you want to slice the bread, it's illogical. There's no logic in that at all. You just had Swerve and Page getting face-to-face on Dynamite last week, yelling at each other because, hey, you entered my home, or hey, you burnt my childhood house, my home down. And Swerve's like, yeah, I did, I did this, that, and the third. And then we get to Dynasty last night where Page is standing ringside on the ring, not knowing what the fuck he wants to do. That's my problem with this. It's the illogical booking of this fucking show. So we bring in someone like Matt and Nick Jackson, which is great to have him back. I made that prevalently known. But what happens now? What happens now with the Young Bucks? And this goes back to what I said about Kenny Omega and Okada. You have Kenny Omega come back to AEW after being gone for so many months dealing with diverticulitis. And the last time we saw Omega before he left to deal with that serious injury or the illness of diverticulitis, he was getting his ass whipped by the Young Bucks and Okada and Jack Perry, backstage on a stretcher. This guy comes back into the fold of AEW after the Continental Classic finals happen, just to walk into the fucking ring and hand the Continental title to Okada like nothing fucking happened. Like we're not gonna pan that out. No, they're gonna wait until All In because Tony Khan has a fascination about booking a fucking Omega and Okada match for the fourth or fifth time. But doing it in AEW. We've already seen this fucking match happen so many times in New Japan. Because Tony Khan has a fascination with New Japan. That's the problem. Number one. Number two, again, this correlates with what I said about the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega. Illogical fucking logic gaps. Why are the Young Bucks coming back, even as heels, to attack Swerve after what Jon Moxley and the Death Riders did to Brandon Cutler? Why did the Young Bucks not come back and help Swerve? And have Swerve go over and beat the shit out of the Death Riders after what they did to their buddy Brandon Cutler? Why did that not happen? You know what I mean? Like what the fuck are we doing here, dude? Seriously. And the funny thing is, it's like Tony Khan and even the Young Bucks, they think the shit that they're doing right now is fucking working. It's not. Are you that delusional that you truly believe in your heart of hearts that the shit that you're doing right now is absolutely fucking working? Honestly. You're the company that these guys have built. These same guys that built up AEW are the same guys that are burning this company to the fucking ground and pissing on the ashes. That's exactly what this shit is. They don't give a fuck, bro. They don't care. I mean, if you look at what CM Punk said after all that shit with Matt and Nick Jackson, saying that, children are running AEW, I can't say that he's fucking wrong. I honestly can't. These guys don't give a shit, bro. You got Matt that's 40 fucking years old, and Nick's right behind him. All you care about is making money and getting your fresh pair of Nikes. That's all you guys give a shit about, man. Make your fucking money. You guys don't give a fuck about your product. You guys don't give a shit about the fans, as long as we're lining your fucking pockets with money. And that's honestly the fucking truth of it. It's sad, bro. It's pathetic, man. It really is. And I'm not sitting here riding the coattails because, everybody else is against AEW. No, bro. I spend my hard ass working money paying for these pay-per-views, spending my time watching Raw, SmackDown, AEW, week in and week out, doing WWE pay-per-views, AEW pay-per-views, and watching these and giving you guys these reviews every single week because this is what I do. Because I'm passionate about pro wrestling. I'm passionate about the business. I've been watching pro wrestling since I was 7 or 8 years old, bro. I've seen the highs and the lows. And for me, it does piss me off because I want AEW to succeed. And I made that abundantly clear to everybody. There's no tribalism here with me between AEW and WWE for me. I want both companies to succeed. If anybody has tribalism, I genuinely believe it's Tony Khan, especially what he did for the whole Kevin Knight situation. He has a fascination with trying to take down WWE, which it's not going to happen. It's not. He might have had a chance in the beginning when Vince was still running the show over there on the main roster for WWE, but not anymore. Triple H knows what the fuck he's doing. That whole company knows what the fuck they're doing. You know what I mean? Like, it's so fucking bad, man. I don't get it. I really don't. And my thing is, I think Dynamite this week is going to be an absolute fucking dumpster fire. It is. You're going to hear the rebuttal from the Young Bucks. Why? For what? Because everything that you're going to say doesn't mean jack shit. Because there's so many logic gaps, it's unreal. So like I said, bro, you had to look at the narrative even with the Owen. Because the winner of the Owen gets an automatic title shot against Jon Moxley, most likely taking place at All In. Adam Page is a part of that tournament. So is Will Ospreay. I said Will Ospreay versus Page in the final. But who's the wild card, bro? Is it Jack Perry? Is that what we're doing here? You're going to bring Jack Perry in and have Perry beat Page, maybe? Really? I mean, how old are we going to... or is the Young Bucks joining the Death Riders? Is this what we're doing? You know what I'm saying? Like what the fuck are we doing here? Honestly, because, you can look at even the MJF situation with the Hurt Syndicate. I said, okay, well, there might be some unfinished business here between MJF and Adam Page. They only had one match. MJF is going over to the Hurt Syndicate. That's Bobby Lashley, MJF, and Shelton Benjamin. And Page is on an island all by himself. And I had mentioned, okay, they bring in the Young Bucks. The Bucks back up Adam Page. And we get a 6-man tag between Adam Page and the Young Bucks taking on the Hurt Syndicate and MJF. That doesn't seem like that's going to happen. Really, it does not seem like it's even remotely close to happening. So, again, it's going to be very interesting and very telling on what the Young Bucks had to say, what's next for Swerve, and what's next for Jon Moxley. But unfortunately, he's going to be holding that title until All In, bro, and it's just going to keep getting worse and worse and worse and worse. Because Tony Khan believes that Jon Moxley is the guy that's making them all this money. And all. It's not, bro. It's not. And if anything, Jon Moxley's hurting himself more with this Death Rider shit than he's actually helping himself in AEW. Because when it's all said and done, nobody's going to give a shit about Jon Moxley after this. It's going to be a same situation like a Jeff Jarrett situation where we don't want to see him on TV no more. Because he's ultimately killing this fucking company. Him, Tony Khan, and now the Young Bucks. They don't give a fuck, man. They don't give a shit. They just don't. I'm sorry. If you honestly believe that they gave a shit, bro, we get better television week in and week out on their weekly episodic television, whether it be Dynamite or Collision. We're not. You bring the Young Bucks back for them just to fuck over Swerve, to allow Jon Moxley to go over and retain the AEW title after what Jon Moxley did to your boy before y'all left. There's a story right there. Why are you not going after the Jon Moxley and the Death Riders? You know what I'm saying? Why are you not joining forces with someone like Adam Page and Swerve to try to take down the Death Riders? You know what I mean? Why are you not reuniting with Adam Page? Why is that not an option? You know what I'm saying? Seriously. It's a logical booking that means absolutely jack shit. That's really what it comes down to, bro. I mean, I can't tell you guys how ridiculous this shit is. They're delusional. They're absolutely delusional when you think that the shit that they're booking is actually fucking working. The pay-per-views, they're way too long. Give us 5 or 6 quality matches. I'd rather have quantity over, I'd rather have quality over quantity. Give me 5 or 6 matches that actually genuinely people give a shit about than the quantity of having 10 to 12 fucking matches on a pay-per-view that's running us from 8 to midnight, and these matches don't mean jack shit. You're booking the matches just to fucking book the matches. Why? I mean, majority of the fucking matches that were a part of the Owen Hart Cup tournament, the quarterfinal matches that happened last night on Dynasty, could have happened on either a Dynamite episode or a Collision. They put those matches on that card to be filler matches to have this pay-per-view go 5 fucking hours. That's really how it felt. Honestly. And you look at someone like Mark Briscoe, which I have all the respect in the world for Mark. Mark Briscoe's great, man. Him and Jay, one of the best tag teams I've ever seen. Fantastic. Rest in peace to Jay. But, my thing is, you put this guy in multiple Continental Classic tournaments. It doesn't pan out for Mark Briscoe. And here he is now in the Owen Hart Cup tournament. And, again, he takes another L in the tournament, and he's out. You know what I mean? Like, what are you doing with Mark Briscoe, bro? Like, what is your issue with Mark? Like, I don't understand it. You put this guy in these tournaments, and you make him look like shit. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that Kyle Fletcher is not the right guy to win, but I'm saying, like, even in the Continental Classic tournament, they didn't, I don't think they even gave the guy a solid win. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I said the same thing about Jay Lethal. This guy was a former Ring of Honor World Champion and Ring of Honor Television Champion. And you got this guy pretty much carrying Jeff Jarrett's bags around. And God, I hope to God that Jeff Jarrett's not the wild card in the goddamn Owen. To be honest with you, man. But would I be surprised? No, I wouldn't, because Tony Khan doesn't give a shit, man. I'm telling you guys right now, and I've said this multiple times in the past. Once AEW and Tony Khan got that new TV rights deal from Time Warner, he was taking his foot off the gas, bro. He was putting this shit in cruise control and not giving a rat's ass anymore, because he knew at that point that in the first 3 years of AEW, it was a viable product. They were red hot. And he was trying to do everything he can to build up that. So when it came time for TV rights talks, he said, hey, look what I did in the past 3 years. And then Time Warner was dumb enough to give them the money and the TV rights deal, and now he's coasting. Because he thinks what he did, he succeeded. That's exactly what it is. And for those people out there that are honestly saying that Dynasty last night was one of the best pay-per-views in AEW history, you're a part of the issue. You're a part of the problem. You're the reason why none of this shit gets across to anybody. You're the reason why you're hyping this company up to keep them around because you want to write a false narrative on how good the show was. That the AEW sickos, I'll put that, those people out there that are saying that this show was great last night, you're a part of the problem, to be honest with you. And I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what the hell you're watching. Clearly you're not a pro wrestling fan, because the show last night was fucking awful, to be honest with you. And if you think otherwise, I don't know what to tell. I mean, everybody has their own opinion, and you're entitled to your own opinion. But be logical. You honestly think that Dynasty last night was one of the best pay-per-views in AEW history? Absolutely fucking not. No. Absolutely not. By the end of the night, bro, I was so pissed that I actually purchased this pay-per-view that it makes me think, like, I don't know about the future of AEW, as far as I'm concerned. I really don't. I don't know where this company goes. A lot, like I said, I mentioned earlier, that a lot of people have AEW has a lot of resemblance to what WCW was in 2000. Yeah, absolutely. And we all saw what happened in WCW in 2000. I mean, hell, Christ, the company folded in 2001, I believe. And I think their last Nitro was in Panama, if I'm not mistaken. Sting and Flair wrestled on that card. I think Booker T and Scott Steiner wrestled for the World Heavyweight title. This company was dead at that point, bro. I mean, it was done. And my thing is, if Tony Khan really is a fan of WCW, okay, and someone said this, I don't know who said this the other day, or it might have been yesterday. I forgot who said it, but they made a valid point. When you look at Jon Moxley's situation and how he's, doing things, a lot of people are saying that the Death Riders has a lot of resemblance to what the NWO did, which, no offense, they ain't even holding a candle to what, Hogan did with the NWO. Not a fucking chance. But let's just go along with the narrative here, saying that the Death Riders are like the NWO. Are they trying to literally book Jon Moxley versus Darby Allin at All In to make it seem as if this was Hogan and Sting when Sting finally returned after being gone for a year and he was hiding in the rafters and he came back as the Crow Sting? Is that what we're doing here? Because if you actually remember and go back in time and watch that fucking match that happened between Sting and Hogan, number one, it was one of the best Starrcade matches one of the best matches I've ever seen as far as hype around the match. Absolutely. The storyline was great. But if you remember the finish, it was a fucked finish. You know what I mean? I mean, you can look at documentaries where Hogan and Bischoff would even say, well, we didn't know who was going to be the winner of that match. Hogan wasn't going to put Sting over. No. I mean, yeah, Sting ended up getting the win thanks to the likes of Bret Hart, but the initial person who won that match was Hogan. And then they finally made the right decision by putting that World Heavyweight title on Sting after Sting was gone for a year. Is that what we're doing here with Darby and Moxley? You have to ask the question. It makes you wonder. Is Darby Allin going to come back? Hopefully he does come back after him climbing Mount Everest. Is Darby going to be the guy that dethrones Jon Moxley for the AEW World title at All In, and they're going to make it seem as if this is a Sting and Hogan 2.0 deal? But instead we're getting Jon Moxley playing the role of Hogan and Darby Allin playing the role of Sting. Is that what we're getting here? Because to me, who else is going to be the guy that's going to take down Jon Moxley? Is it going to be Adam Page? Because right now, I don't know what the hell's going on with Adam Page after what happened last night. Are we going to get Page and Swerve teaming up to take on Jon Moxley? You know what I mean? Or the Young Bucks? Is that what's going to happen here? After what the Young Bucks did to Swerve last night? Which ultimately caused Swerve the match against Jon Moxley? That's what I mean by loopholes, bro, because you got Adam Page in the Owen Hart Cup tournament. And the winner of that match will face off against AEW World Champion, most likely at All In. So where does that leave someone like Darby Allin? Will Darby be facing Jon Moxley at All In for the AEW World title? We don't know. That's what I mean, bro. There's so many logic gaps on this shit that no one knows really truly what the fuck is going on. We don't. And there's no captivating storylines that actually get us invested. Oh man, we got to see what happens next. No. There's not. No one knows what the fuck is going on here. That's the ultimate issue here. There's no compelling storylines to get us invested in the fucking product. And then you have, like I said, you have Tony Khan at these post-media scrums, and people are at, hey, what's your Waffle House order? Or some bullshit like that. Or what do you order at Waffle? Who gives a fuck about that stupid ass shit, bro? Honestly. That's your go-to? Hey, what's your Waffle House order? Who gives a fuck about Waffle House, bro? Seriously. That's what you're asking at the scrum? You're not asking about, what's next for Anthony Bowens and Max Caster. You're not asking what's next for Swerve. Why the Young Bucks did what? Like, what? Like, what the fuck are we doing here? Why are people that go to these scrums, I mean, think about it, bro. You have these fucking people that go to these media scrums, post media scrums, and that are there all fucking day, from 7:30, 8 o'clock, all the way until 12:30, and you're still sitting in a media scrum for another hour, hour and a half. So you're not leaving the arena until almost 2 in the morning. And you're asking about a Waffle House order, or you're not asking about, well, what's next for this, what's next for that. I mean, come on, bro. What the fuck are we doing here? Seriously. Oh, enjoy the product. Take it as it is. No, I'm not. I'm not. And I think the people that do that shit, and well, we're just gonna say it was good just for the rub shoulders with Tony Khan. No, bro. No, I'm not. I don't give a fuck about your Waffle House order. I don't. To me, I think Waffle House is overrated. Number one, number two, and honestly, that's what you want to ask. I mean, I think there was a time where there's a guy who asked the Waffle House shit, and I remember there was a time where he did something with The Rock, and The Rock put his ass on blast. Like that's the question you want to ask me. What's my Waffle House order? I thought it was fucking hilarious. Like that's your stick. That's what you're doing. Come on, bro. Get the fuck out of here, man. Seriously, bro. Like that's what we're fucking doing here. Honestly, come on, man. And other people. It's not just me cracking on this shit. There's other people that I know of that think this shit's a joke with that whole Waffle House shit. Seriously. That's what you're asking at these scrums. And this guy gets a chance to go to these scrums and ask this stupid ass shit. So we're going to AEW post-media scrums asking the same shit. No one cares, bro. Nobody gives a fuck. Honestly, it's a joke, man. It's honestly a joke. No one's asking the actual questions that matter at the media scrum. Like, why is this happening? Why do the Young Bucks come back and attack Swerve? What's next for Anthony Bowens and Max Caster? Who is the possible wild card that will be taking on Adam Page in his first match in the Owen? You know what I'm saying? What's your take on Jon Moxley walking out with the AEW World title at Dynasty last night? Why are these questions not being asked, bro? I mean, come on, like, what the fuck are we doing? What are we doing? And we're not doing any of that. So I don't understand why we're doing the shit that we're doing. I don't understand why Tony Khan and AEW are booking the shit the way they're booking it, thinking that the shit is actually working when clearly it's fucking failing. AEW had one job last night and they failed. And the failure is going to continue to keep happening because Tony Khan and the people working in AEW don't give a shit about their own product. And that's just the way it is. But with that being said, this is my review of AEW